Tomorrow is Ancestor Day. Aunt and I were washing vegetables in the yard when Uncle suddenly came rushing in from outside. Aunt asked, "What's wrong, old man? Why so flustered?" Uncle gulped down several mouthfuls of water and said, "A horse monkey just crawled out of the cemetery out back." Aunt gasped and pulled me into her arms. "Don't scare Adam like that. That's a terrible thing to say." I scratched my head curiously and asked, "Uncle, isn't that just an old story meant to scare kids?" Aunt shot him a glare. "Don't listen to your uncle's nonsense. You'd be better off believing Kyle the cripple at the village entrance. At least his stories have details." I knew Kyle the cripple. He always sat by the village gate, telling terrifying tales. According to him, the horse monkey was a monster covered in black fur with a white face split by a huge crack. Its arms were short, but it could eat people. All the village kids made fun of him, saying he once peeked at a widow using the toilet and mistook her butt for a monster. Uncle ignored Aunt's scolding and said, "I'm going to find Kyle and figure out what to do. You two stay inside." Adam's grandpa had a grudge with the horse monkey. I'm afraid it's coming for Adam. Uncle had been gone for a while, but I still couldn't calm down. Aunt chuckled and patted my head. "Don't mind those old fools. Probably just drunk and talking nonsense." Just as she said that, Buddy in the yard started barking like crazy, and we heard footsteps on the roof, thump, 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 like someone was walking up there. "A thief?" Aunt looked up, her voice trembling. But before we could react, Anna, our neighbor next door, screamed, "A monster! There's a monster on the roof! Tony's wife! Are you home? Hide!" Aunt and I were instantly covered in goosebumps. Uncle wasn't drunk, it was real. "Aunt, what do we do?" Without a word, she pulled the quilts from the bed, lifted a wooden board at the head, and revealed a large wooden chest. She motioned for me to crawl in. Big wooden trunks like that were common in the countryside, usually for storing quilts. We had just hidden inside when we heard tiles and straw falling to the ground, followed by a heavy thud something had landed. I clung to Aunt, trembling, as she covered my mouth. Outside, Buddy was barking again, and inside the house, there came a deep, rattling breathing, like a tractor engine. The air stank with a nauseating smell. It moved around the room, then climbed onto the bed, thudding as it went. At first, I thought someone was knocking on the door outside, but as the sound got closer, I realized it was knocking the bed, testing for hollow spaces. The thing was smart, using the sound of muffled knocks to figure out where someone might be hiding. My eyes welled with tears. We were done for. Sure enough, the bed chest we were hiding in made a different hollow thump. It let out an eerie, excited giggle like it had found a treat. The board above us suddenly cracked open a bit. Aunt yanked the handle, trying to keep it shut. The creature, realizing someone was resisting, let out a frenzied screech. There was no way we could match its strength. Just as the board was about to be torn off, I finally screamed in terror, "Help!" The moment the words left my mouth, the window shattered as something crashed through Buddy. He'd broken free of his leash and jumped in to save us. The horse monkey roared, and Buddy let out a pained howl. I thought that was it. Buddy was going to be eaten. "Adam, are you in there?" came a familiar voice from outside. Aunt shouted, "Kyle, the horse monkey got in. Help us!" Then Uncle's voice rang out. "Quick! Boys, bang the gongs!" Outside, the clanging of gongs and drums exploded louder than New Year's. The monster's growls weakened. We heard the roof beams creak, and the crowd shouting, "Oh my God, what is that thing?" When we finally came out, Uncle and Kyle had led a group of young men inside. Buddy lay on the ground, twitching, limbs torn off by the horse monkey, his scalp missing. He wasn't going to make it. Aunt sobbed, cradling Buddy. The villagers murmured in shock. It turned out Kyle had been right all along. Kyle turned to Uncle and said, "Tony, that monster's after Adam. You better get him back to town. Buddy took the hit for him tonight." Uncle sighed. "Kyle, how? It's nearly dark, and the donkey cart takes 4 hours to reach town. If the horse monkey catches up, Adam's done for." Kyle, leaning on his cane, said, "It's a sin. Don't know where the village chief ran off to. If we had his motorcycle, we could make it before dark." Turns out Uncle and Kyle had planned to borrow the chief's motorcycle to send me to the chief's place in town. The village chief was a bachelor, but well off. He'd bought a second-hand bike 2 years ago and built a house in town. But no matter how hard Uncle knocked, the chief didn't answer. He started to panic. Kyle, worried for me, called together the strongest young men in the village. They all agreed the horse monkey would return that night. The only plan was to have the men stay in the house with me for protection. One big burly man said, "Don't worry, Uncle Tony. We're not going anywhere tonight. 7 or 8 grown men should be enough to take down one monster, right?" Kyle thumped his cane. "That thing's smart. Even Adam's grandpa, a seasoned hunter, couldn't kill it. 10 of you might not be enough." The man scoffed, clearly embarrassed. Everyone else nodded. Aunt, wiping her tears, buried Buddy under the tree in the yard, then slaughtered the chickens to feed everyone. Tonight was going to be dangerous. Kyle reminded everyone, "No matter what noise you hear, don't open the door. With this many people inside, the horse monkey won't dare come in. Its only trick now is to lure someone outside." Back then, villages didn't have streetlights. As soon as the sun set, everything went pitch black. The night was dead quiet. Occasionally, a dog barked in the distance, or an owl hooted. Everyone huddled together, playing cards and smoking to stay alert. But by 4 a.m., everything was still eerily calm. No sign of the horse monkey. Some of the guys had already dozed off. Uncle asked, "Kyle, maybe it's not coming?" Kyle shook his head. "It's still holding a grudge against Adam's grandpa. It'll come, sooner or later." Uncle frowned. Where did Grandpa go anyway? Only he and Cole knew what that thing really was. But they vanished 8 years ago. What now? Kyle sighed. My fault. If only I'd reminded John to burn the horse monkey's body, maybe they wouldn't have disappeared. I can't believe that monster survived after the beating John gave it. I knew they were talking about when I was born. My grandfather, John Anderson, once teamed up with a city youth to kill the monster. But Kyle, now old, couldn't recall all the details and had never been able to fully explain the creature to the village. After a while, I couldn't keep my eyes open and started to doze. Then bang, 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 someone knocked on the door. Uncle jumped up and shook the men awake. "It's here!" Everyone grabbed farm tools and stared at the gate. The knocking came again. A voice outside said, "Tony!" Uncle paused. "Who is it?" The voice replied, "Motorcycle." Aunt perked up. "Is it the chief? He's brought the bike?" But Kyle frowned. "Who delivers motorcycles at this hour? Tony didn't even see him this afternoon. How would he know we needed one?" Uncle called again. "Is that you, Chief?" A moment later, silence. We looked at each other, puzzled, when the voice outside replied, "Yes." Then the burly young man stood up and said, "That's my uncle. Let him in. It's too dangerous out there." Kyle shook his head. "No, that doesn't sound human. Don't open the door." The young man, Larry Kelly, the chief's nephew, bristled. "What's that supposed to mean, Kyle? You want my uncle to die out there? You're trying to get him killed, huh?" Kyle puffed out his beard. "Listen to yourself. Does that sound like your uncle? You've lost your mind." Larry chuckled. Still mad about when my uncle blamed you for Cole and Adam's grandpa disappearing, huh? And what? You think the monster can talk now? Maybe it's you who's been talking nonsense for too long? Kyle suddenly stood straight, no limp in sight. You go ahead and open it. Just don't drag us down with you when you die. Aunt was also worried. Larry, don't be foolish. That doesn't sound like the chief. Larry waved her off. Come on, Auntie. You know he's a night owl. I know what my uncle's like. With that, Larry pushed open the house door and walked straight to the gate. Uncle hesitated. What if it really was the chief delivering the bike and they left him out there to die? But what if it was the horse monkey, pretending to be him? If so, some of them would be dead for sure, or at least lose a few limbs. Kyle shouted, Tony! Quick! Shut the door! If this fool wants to die, we're not going down with him. Larry cursed back, You old bastard, and pulled open the gate latch. The door creaked open in the dark, unguarded at last. Everyone inside the house gripped their shovels and pickaxes nervously. The temperature rose noticeably, and condensation began to form on the windows. But instead of Larry screaming, we heard his puzzled voice. Uncle? Uncle? Where'd you go? Come inside already. Whoever it was seemed to have walked away, leaving only a faint gone. Not long after, Larry pushed the motorcycle into the courtyard, looking smug as he glanced at Kyle and said, Making a fuss over nothing. I told you it was my uncle. You just wouldn't believe me. He dropped off the bike and left. Aunt saw that it really was the village chief's motorcycle, and quickly asked, Where's the chief? Larry slammed the gate shut and said, What else? You scared him off, calling him a monster. You know how he has stormed off without a word. Didn't even look back. Uncle rubbed his forehead. Damn, maybe we really wronged the chief. Kyle looked grim, squatting in the corner in silence, puffing on his dry tobacco. Larry shot him a disdainful glance. Good thing I was around, or Adam would have died while you clowns cried wolf. Kyle wasn't deaf to the insult. His face turned ashen. He threw down his pipe and stormed out, slamming the door. Aunt tried to stop him. Kyle! Wait! It's not safe out there. But Kyle was stubborn as always and didn't look back. Larry spat on the ground. Don't mind him, Auntie. He just can't stand seeing others do better than him. Probably wanted my uncle dead. Uncle and Aunt both sighed, feeling a bit guilty. Maybe accusing the chief of being the monster really had offended him. Larry said, Uncle Tony, it's almost dawn. Now that we have the motorcycle, I'll take Adam to town and stop by the police station to bring back some officers. If I leave now, I can definitely make it back before dark. Aunt hesitated. It's still dark. Maybe wait until sunrise? What if the horse monkey catches you in the dark? Larry chuckled. Come on, Auntie. That thing can't outrun a motorbike. Besides, the sooner I get the cops, the sooner the village can be at peace. Am I right? Aunt still wanted to protest, but Uncle nodded. Larry has a point. Even full daylight isn't necessarily safer. Better he go now and bring the police quickly. Aunt packed us some boiled eggs, and the villagers escorted us to the edge of the village. I glanced at the chief's house. Its gates were tightly shut, completely silent. Uncle told me not to worry and head to town, that everyone would stick together until the police arrived. So I followed Larry and hopped on the second-hand motorcycle. It was a little after 5, and the sky to the east had turned a pale white. Fog blanketed the fields around us. Our village was remote, even on a bike. It took over 2 hours to reach town. There were no nearby villages, just endless fields and mist. Larry drove fast. After a while, the village was out of sight. Then his stomach growled. He turned his head and smiled at me. Adam, you hungry? I nodded. Larry pulled over. We're far enough now, it's safe. Let me grab us some corn. Larry picked a couple of tender ears, and we sat on the bike, eating. That's when I sniffed hard last night's smoke had dulled my nose. Suddenly, I caught a faint but disgusting stench. It wasn't strong, but it seemed to come from far away. I looked around, but the fog was thick. I couldn't see a thing. Larry noticed I'd stopped eating. "What's wrong, Adam?" I said, "Uncle Larry, I think I smell the horse monkey." Larry froze mid-chew. "No way. We're too far out. It couldn't have followed us." "But I really smell it," I said. Larry sniffed the air, then chuckled. "Kid, maybe you're so scared you're imagining things. Unless that thing's riding a donkey, there's no way it got here this fast." Still, he tossed his corn and told me to hold on tight. The engine roared to life, and the bike sped forward. But the farther we went, the stronger the stench became. "Uncle," I said, "I think it's coming from ahead of us." "Screech!" Larry hit the brakes hard. From the back, I saw his shoulders start to shake violently. "What is it, Uncle?" I asked. Larry, trembling, pointed ahead. "Adam, who is that?" I looked up. The fog was thick, but someone was walking toward us, waving. The figure called out slowly, "Need a ride?" Larry and I froze. Squinting, we saw it was the village chief, staggering out of the mist like he was drunk. Larry laughed nervously and said, "Damn, kid, you scared the crap out of me. It's just the chief." But the moment he said it, we both realized something. Didn't the chief just deliver the bike a few hours ago? How did he end up ahead of us? Then who was this? Before we could react, the chief walked up and smacked Larry on the head. "You two got guts, huh? Stealing my motorcycle?" We were stunned. Larry stammered, "Uncle, didn't you drop off the bike early this morning?" The chief frowned. "Bullshit. Jack and I were drinking at the power station since noon yesterday. I never dropped off anything." He pointed behind him. Sure enough, halfway between the village and town was a small hydroelectric station, usually manned by old Jack. Larry gasped. "Uncle, are you drunk? I swear I was talking to you." The chief snapped. "You messing with me? Don't believe me? Ask Jack." As he said that, he pointed back toward the station. Just then, I heard rustling in the cornfield ahead. Someone was walking through. The chief heard it too and shouted, "Jack, you old fart, you fall in the toilet? Answer me already." But no reply came. Instead, a hand rose from the cornfield waving at us. Larry called out, "Uncle Jack, did you bring my uncle over here?" No response. Then we heard a sound like a tractor revving up. I grabbed Larry in fear. "Uncle, that's the horse monkey. That's the exact same sound it made when it came into the house." "Don't talk nonsense," Larry barked. The chief turned to me. "You saw the horse monkey?" That's when I remembered he used to fight it with my grandpa. He'd believe me. I really saw it. We were heading to town to get the police. I pointed at the tracks, flattening the corn. They were getting closer. The chief's eyes widened. He slammed his fists into the bike's engine. Bang! Bang! The thing in the field stopped and stepped back 2 paces. The chief cursed. "Damn it! It really is the horse monkey. Run!" He hoisted the bike and started it. But not long after we took off, it died. "Shit! What the hell?" Larry, quick-eyed, looked at the fuel gauge. "It's out of gas," the chief gaped. "No way! I filled it yesterday." But there was no time to argue. The monster, hiding in the corn, let out a hideous, gleeful cackle and lunged toward us. Just then, from the fog ahead, someone shouted, "Get down!" The chief reacted fast, yanking both of us to the ground. A deafening gunshot rang out. The horse monkey took a direct hit to the face. "Oh!" It screamed in agony and turned to flee toward the power station. Out of the mist came a donkey, an old man on its back carrying a hunting rifle. It was Kyle. The chief shouted, "Kyle, kill that thing!" Kyle jumped off, tossed me onto the donkey's back. "One shot won't kill it. It's luring us to chase. Get back to the village." The chief, still shaken, cursed. "That beast followed me the whole way." Larry, pale, asked, "But Uncle, why didn't it hurt you?" The chief swallowed hard. "It must have just eaten." "Eaten?" I asked. He nodded. "Old Jack went to the bathroom and never came back. He's probably dead." Then he turned to Kyle. "How'd you know we were in trouble?" Kyle nudged the donkey forward. "After I left, something kept bugging me. Then I remembered Cole once said that Monster could talk like a human. That's when I rushed back." He pointed at a faint black trail on the dirt road. "Your bike had a leak. The fuel tank shot." Larry asked the village chief, "Uncle, what do we do now?" The chief replied, "Going to town is out of the question. That thing's blocking us." After thinking for a moment, he added, "I've got a landline at my place. Larry, you studied electrical work. Try and fix it." We nodded. Calling the police was the only hope left. Back in the village, the chief quickly sent me to Uncle Tony's house, while Larry and Kyle went to repair the phone. The chief knocked and called, "Tony! Tony!" He shouted several times, but no one answered. I asked, "Chief, could everyone have taken shelter somewhere else?" The chief frowned, thought for a moment, then said, "Possibly. Let's head to my place first." Just then, I heard a faint crackling in the courtyard, like someone stepping on dry firewood. I quickly called out, "Uncle, are you in there?" But the noise vanished, and no one responded. The chief stood at the doorway for a long moment before suddenly yelling, "Quick! Break the door down!" We rammed the door hard. It hadn't been fully latched, so with a loud bang, it swung open. The moment I saw what was inside, I let out a cry and burst into tears. Uncle Tony was lying atop the woodpile, eyes wide open, gripping a knife tightly in one hand. Most of his scalp had been ripped off. He was already dead. "Uncle!" I screamed, trying to rush in. The chief grabbed me and pulled me back. "Don't go in," he said, pointing at a trail of wet footprints on the mud wall. Then he turned and bolted, dragging me along. "That beast can swim it across the river from the hydro station faster than we could walk here. Tony's skull's still there. It left it on purpose to lure someone in." I wept in the chief's arms. "Chief, Uncle Tony's dead. What do we do?" He said, "We go to my house first. We need to think this through." When we reached the chief's place, he shoved open the door and quickly told Larry and Kyle that the horse monkey had returned to the village. Kyle, holding a pair of pliers, froze. "It's back?" he asked, stunned. Meanwhile, Larry was shouting into the phone, furious. "What the hell are you laughing at? Are you even a real cop? We have a real monster here." But there was no response. The line went dead. Larry slumped and said, "The cop didn't believe me. Said I was joking around at a police station." Kyle didn't have time for this. "The guy who brought the motorcycle this morning, did you really see him clearly? Who was it?" Larry, no longer cocky, shook his head. "It was too dark, but I swear it looked just like my uncle from behind, and he was wearing my uncle's clothes." Kyle's hand trembled on his cane as he turned to the chief. "Chief, I've got a bad feeling. There might be two horse monkeys, and one of them's become something more. It's become intelligent." "Two of them?" We all gasped. The chief frowned. "Kyle, wasn't it just one that killed Adam's grandpa and Cole? How could there be two?" Kyle pointed at the motorcycle outside. "If the one that brought the bike wasn't you, then it had to be a horse monkey. Larry and Adam left right after. Even if a monster swam across, it couldn't have moved faster than a motorbike. But if one sabotaged the bike and the other waited at the hydro station, it all makes sense." The one that delivered the motorcycle, it's still in the village. It killed Tony! And Larry said it looked just like you from behind, not black and hairy. That means it knows how to disguise itself as a human. Larry sat down, terrified. We're screwed! What if it's eaten everyone in the village already? The chief slapped him. Don't talk nonsense. The only place left is the ancestral temple. Everyone probably went there to hide. The chief told Larry and me to grab drums and gongs and make as much noise as we could. Kyle had said loud noises scared the creature just like when they fought it in the past. The four of us set out, heading toward the temple where the others had likely taken refuge. On the way, I was extremely nervous. I kept glancing around, always feeling like something was following us. But whenever I looked back, there was nothing. I didn't dare tell Larry. We beat the gongs loudly as we reached the temple gate. When the doors opened, we saw the terrified villagers huddled inside. Chief, thank God you're back. My kid went to fetch water this morning and never returned. When I went to look for him, I found his scalp torn off. Didn't Larry and Adam go to town for the police? How are they back so fast? Everyone was chattering. The chief calmed them down and explained what he and Kyle had deduced. But that only sparked more panic. 2 horse monkeys? We're doomed! We should run! One of them can talk and wear people's clothes. What if it... The moment that person spoke, the whole temple went cold. Everyone looked around suspiciously. The chief snapped. What the hell are you all imagining? So what if it wears human clothes it can't wear human skin? Don't lose your minds. Just then, I spotted my aunt. She looked blank, expressionless. When she saw me, she smiled. Aunt used to smile at me all the time. But this smile, it was wrong, twisted. It made my skin crawl. She opened her mouth and said, Adam, then slowly walked over and hugged me. I froze in fear and burst into tears. Someone nearby sighed. Poor Tony's wife must have lost her mind seeing his body like that. I sniffled and said, It stinks. My words caught Larry and the chief's attention. What stinks? They asked. I pointed at Aunt. She smells like a latrine. Another person chimed in. Adam, don't say your aunt stinks. She crawled out of the latrine to survive. You should be thankful she's alive. The crowd murmured in sympathy. I broke free from Aunt and ran, hiding behind Larry while watching her. The chief didn't notice anything strange, assuming she'd just been traumatized. He was talking with the elders about how to deal with the monster. Kyle thought for a moment and said, The horse monkey was after Adam from the start. It only killed randomly this morning because he wasn't around. The chief squinted. You want to use Adam as bait? Kyle nodded. There's no other choice. Adam's the only one it's fixated on. He's our only hope. So everyone agreed after dark. I would wait outside the temple gate while Larry and a few young men lay in ambush nearby. Even 2 horse monkeys couldn't beat so many people. Night fell quickly. I glanced at Larry, hiding in the grass, and at Kyle, tying bells around my waist. Grandpa, Kyle, are you sure I'll be okay? I asked. Kyle said, Your grandfather did the same thing to kill it. I'll protect you. I don't want to be bait, I cried. Kyle scowled. Don't be afraid. I've got you. When everything was ready, Kyle told me to cry as I walked. My crying and the jingling bells echoed through the fields. After every sob, I looked around, terrified the creature was already there. After a while, I sniffed, and that familiar foul stench crept into my nose. I whispered toward the bushes, It's here. Larry heard, and instantly became alert. He and the other young men focused on the dark corners, ready for the monster. But we waited, and still no sign of the horse monkey. Then, A scream rang out from inside the temple. "Ah! Someone's dead!" We all froze. Larry quickly led the others back inside. I was slower, trailing behind. Just as I stepped over the threshold, I caught something in the corner of my eye, a black figure lunging from the field. It laughed that horrible grrk, grrk, grrk laugh, its body covered in black fur. Its pale face split down the middle, still bearing the gunshot wound now scabbed over. It was the same one from the hydro station. I screamed, "Horse monkey! Help! It's here!" But it was too late. The ambushers had all gone inside. No one was left to protect me. It grabbed my ankle, yanked me up, and dragged me toward the pitch-black fields. Help. Adam. That's when Larry and the chief realized they'd fallen for the creature's diversion. But no human could outrun a horse monkey. Just as I was dragged farther away, a flash lit up the night, then a thunderous gunshot. Bang! The bullet struck the creature's face, blood spraying. It screamed and let me go. As it turned to flee, another shot rang out. Kyle emerged from the shadows with his hunting rifle. "Adam, down!" he yelled. The second shot hit it square in the back of the head, but somehow it didn't die. It turned and looked at Kyle, reaching out with a hand. Then its face slowly opened along the crack, and it spoke. "Cock!" But it didn't finish. It collapsed, motionless. Kyle froze at its words. His hands shook as he held the gun. He stepped forward, stunned. "What did you say? Could you be?" Kyle was completely dazed, not noticing the crowd's terrified screams because, from behind him, Ant suddenly lunged. Kyle didn't even have time to react. Ant grabbed his hair and yanked. His scalp flew off with a bit of bone, blood gushing. Kyle collapsed to the ground, unmoving. The chief shouted in horror, "Tony's wife! What are you doing?" But Ant just laughed, bent down, and picked up the hunting rifle. Then black fur sprouted from her neck, and a pale face emerged. It was the horse monkey. The villagers panicked and ran in all directions. But the creature didn't chase them. It stared at me for a moment, as if it realized something. Then it turned and walked deeper into the fields, vanishing from sight. In the chaos, the chief grabbed me and put me on the donkey cart. It moved slowly, but thankfully, the creature didn't come after us. We finally made it to town. I thought the nightmare was over. But I couldn't have been more wrong. It was only the beginning.